But no, like, why did you pick St. Francis of Assisi?
Well, obviously, I was new to the faith and I was just learning about all of the saints. I was trying to do research, and the one I was actually leaning towards was St. Paul, because I think I wanted his attributes of like being a bit more of a fighter for the faith and being a bit more, I just liked just everything about him, how confident he was in what he was saying and what he fought for. So I was like, I would like that attribute because I don't feel like that's who I am. So I felt like maybe if I chose him as my saint, that might start to rub off on me. And I nearly had it pretty much up until like 2 weeks before my baptism. And then I think Maria mentioned someone, I don't know if she mentioned St. Francis, but she mentioned someone who was maybe like a bit more of a musician, and said she felt like that was more like me. So I researched him and I was like, oh yeah, that does sound more like who I am right now. And then while I was researching him, St. Francis then just happened to be in my the thing that I was reading as well. And I was like, he was also a musician, and that's kind of what caught my attention. Like,
Was he really?
Like a street performer,
Yeah.
like not out and out musician, but. And then the word that caught my attention was they called him like the Troubadour for the faith and for God, and Troubadour, the word sort of just means traveling musician. But my first band and the band I was part of in the UK was called Troubadour as well, and I was like, that's straight away. I was like, that's a bit of a connection.
Yeah, stars were aligning.
And I was like, it's really interesting. So then I read him more, and then it was more. I just felt like a lot of the things he was advocating for aligned with me a lot more. His way of being, his humbleness. He doesn't really have much to his name. Like, he was rich from a rich family, but he stripped himself naked in the square and just said to his father, like, I'm stepping away and I'm living a life with nothing and dedicating everything to Jesus. And then just his way with, like, even just things like animals. He really cared for animals and stuff. And I've always felt like I've got a really good connection with animals as well. It's weird. I feel like I'm really good with dogs and pets and cats and just all these weird things that, like, you don't really think about yourself as one of your personalities. But when I was reading about him, I was like, I feel that way about myself as well. So just so many things started to connect, and I was like, look, I think this is going to have to be. And then I realised that this is the year of St. Francis.
Yeah. And I was telling you that before. Yeah. I was like, do you know it was the year of St. Francis?
Yeah. So with the Pope sort of declaring this year as that as well, and I was like, look, I think it's meant to be. And I guess his way of being, his happiness, even with not much behind him, is really fascinating as to how can you be that happy, maybe when you don't have much, and is there something that brings happiness? What do we pin happiness on? Is it a feeling? Is it an emotion? Or is it something more substantial? I think that's what we want to touch on today. Before we do get into sort of some of the facts and maybe how our brains are wired and what researchers have said as well, personally for you, is there something you do in the morning, or is there something that for you that brings you happiness in your day, or like something you can...
Why am I nervous that you're asking me this question?
I want to know the answer.
I'm nervous. You want to know the answer? I'm nervous. We kind of just rolled into shooting and now I feel unprepared, but I'm ready. Let's go. I would say, like, when I think one thing I've learned recently, and you and I were discussing this off camera, was starting your morning with an offertory to God and giving your morning to God. And for different people, and we know for different saints that look differently. But for me, I was listening to a recent YouTube conversation with a Chaldean Orthodox priest, I believe, and a Roman Catholic priest. And he spoke about a morning offering that I think one of his parishioners has. And I've recently started adopting this morning offering, which is, and again, off camera, we're talking about like the art, which was so funny because like you're talking about the armor of God, because this whole talk was about this and about how every morning this man says, he gets on his knees and he says, I put on the armor of God, I put on my helmet, and he crosses his forehead that in every thought that he thinks, it may be ordered and directed towards God. In his ears, everything he hears, and in his mouth, everything he says may be directed towards God and glorifying God, and that he doesn't utter an offense against God or against his justice. And then he says, in his hands, in his loins, in his feet, in his breast, in his heart.
Yep.
And with each thing that he crosses, it's like, may he use his hands to do good and glorify God and help, and use his talents in his loins that he may not offend God by sins of the sixth commandment, in his feet that he may walk the narrow path towards heaven, in his heart that he may not render hate and all these things, and only love. And only recently, like, I've adopted that. And obviously you're very tired when you're doing it, because the first thing you roll out of bed, it's the first thing you do. And you're trying to like mean it when you're saying it as best as you can. And sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't like, it's that, there's like that, oh, I don't feel like, you know,
of course.
like, am I just doing this for like whatever?
Yeah.
And then like, I find that during the day when something difficult comes across my path, I'm always reminded of that first thing I did in the morning. And then there's like this sense of joy there, which is like, it's like God's working through your life.
You get a bit of grace. Or...
Yeah. It's like those little like pockets of movements of grace. But another one I've done, I don't know what saint this was, but I learned this very early on, which was at the beginning of every morning or every offertory. I do that now. That was like a couple of days ago. But prior to that, every morning, I would offer up three Hail Marys for holiness and for purity, in avoidance of all mortal sin for that day. And that one I've always done, but like even prior to Lent, like I would do that and I'd roll out of bed straight into my knees and I'd kind of like prostrate myself as like a reminder of like my day and and everything I have, I don't have of my own accord. I only have because of God, and therefore let me give my morning to God and therefore my whole day. Because like you asked me at the start, like, do you know, I don't know if it was where your happiness lies, and like, the generic answer is, oh yeah, in God. It's like, well, what does that look like day to day for people, you know? And for me, it's like orienting everything in my life towards that end. And then throughout the day, obviously that there's more that comes with that, and evening things and
so
whatever.
You said like part of the help has been sort of, as you described it, putting your armor on to start your day. And that obviously then, if that's helping you avoid acting in any sinful way, obviously that brings you a bit of happiness, because naturally you are more aligned and keeping your focus on God, which, like we're going to mention, is part of what brings us our happiness. But was there a time where you were too lazy in the morning and you didn't get into that habit? And can you see there was a difference in the day that you didn't have the happiness that went with that?
Yeah, like 8 days ago.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing battle, because like I think like we've mentioned so many times in this podcast, it's like, we know that like every day is a spiritual battle for us, and like there's a warfare that we're kind of like waging war against ourselves and our flesh and the evil one. It's like when you don't set up, and I'm sure like you've recently been baptized Catholic, and I'm sure like you at the beginning you're probably on fire for your faith, but let me ask you, like as you progress in your faith, did you find that like, oh, actually you mentioned it in one of the podcasts, because you said like post Easter, like you're pumped, ready, and then like you had this massive come down, like post Easter season, which is actually another season where we should be like more joyful, because you know Pentecost and everything else. But like, did you feel like when you stopped praying and offering up your mornings that like you lost your joy or your inner peace or like your stability throughout your day, or the meaning and purpose of your life in a sense? Did you?
Yeah, and just like you mentioned with the spiritual attacks, just the things that I felt like I was getting a grip of, whether it was like for Lent, I was giving up desserts, and that was in a battle to try and temper my gluttony. So like my sweet tooth is the way into that trap and that vice. So over Lent, I was doing really well. But then when Lent ended and I started to allow eating desserts again, that then turned into one dessert, two desserts, and then every day a dessert. And then before I knew it, I was just back into them bad habits. And then naturally that just brings unhappiness, because...
And it's not just one bad habit. It's like, do you find that like it's a domino effect? It's like, whether it's purity, whether it's, I don't know, sloth, like, greed, avarice, pride, pride, like all of the, do you feel like it's like when,
creep into
it's like you're maintaining the one virtue, which brings you joy and freedom. Cause that's what happiness is. It's like interior freedom. But when you stop, like when you like kind of give into that one temptation and whatever, and like again, like it's not saying that having chocolate's sinful.
No.
I'm saying it's that like we're called to temper our passions, and yeah, I know, I find that like, yeah, I just find that like in my life when I give into one thing, one vice, it's like, bro, it's like.
But these vices sort of touch on sort of where we're going to be going with this, because are we placing happiness in our day around that vice? Like, so say on a Sunday, I'll allow myself to go out and have a really nice dessert. Is my whole Sunday based around happiness is coming out of that dessert? Then when I've quickly eaten it in 5 minutes, I need another hit of something, because technically I've now eaten the thing that brought me happiness, and now I'm like, well, that's over. So like, maybe we can get another dessert later, because that'll bring me a bit more joy again. Yeah. And like, are we placing this happiness on just random things in our day that can come and go so fleetingly, and then when they do, we're then in search of that next hit. And when we live in a world that's so full of distractions, and there are so many like endorphin hits, whether social media or whatever our vices are. So when they come and go so quickly, that's why we always want that next one, because it starts to bring in that depression state of mind of that's over now, and like, now what can I find? And
the doom scrolling begins, or
you're constantly just
Netflix
searching and searching,
or,
and you're on the go, and you're never content with what you have. Yeah. So we need to place it on something bigger and something that's going to stay there for us.
Yeah, and outside of ourselves and beyond ourselves, which like, yeah, for us it's God, right? And I think I think by like our nature is that like we're called to something beyond ourselves. Would you agree with that? Like,
definitely.
Yeah, like that thing of like everything is fleeting, and I think we all feel it. Like even before I was a practicing Catholic, like one of the things I thought I found my joy in was like alcohol, drugs, partying, girls, porn, like all these things prior, like were just things that, I don't know if it was culturally or just through your experience, because they all bring pleasure. It's like the end of that in itself was never fulfilling. No. It always felt empty. Yeah. And for me, it always felt like, bro, there has to be something more than this. And like I feel like deep down now, like everyone feels that. And I think we all, maybe that's why like that whole self-help movement thing has come about, because there are truths in what like go to the gym every day. Like you go to the gym every morning, right? Why? Because it's a great way to start your day, and it's like, but I kind of feel like the meaning, whilst it's good, and like, you know, like they can also be, the end of going to the gym can be bad if it's like for vanity, like it's only to make your body look like $1 million, you know, or I want to look good so I can get as many girls, or as opposed to, hey, I want my body to function properly so I can show up for the purpose of my life, to give
especially energy. As a man, like you want to be able to provide for your family, you want to be able to protect your wife and kids, and if anything were to happen, that you can be there as a protector as well. So I think they're the main keys of what the gym should be, to be able to function properly throughout your life, and to not be limited by your body. And like you said, with the self-help, and they have the morning meditation and journaling, and I feel like they're going in a roundabout way of everything that we would believe as Catholics as well. We wake up and pray and meditate and pray on things. They're sort of doing the same thing, but without attaching God to it. So, like you said, the things they're teaching, they are similar, and they do serve a purpose.
And there's truths in them too.
But I feel like they are missing the one component, which is really gonna.
Because it's the one. I feel like it's the one component that provides meaning through suffering, because I don't know, man, like the whole for me, the whole self-help movement thing in the books, and even I went through my own period of it, even like as a Catholic, of like I was reading like 25 books, and like all these say something different, and like you hear the same thing. It's like, well, it's because, as you know, I took 6 months off work at the start of 2025, and literally for like that 6 months, probably a little bit longer, I was like head deep into like all these self-help books about bettering my life when I come back to work and how to manage stress and anxiety. I did everything as a Catholic,
Yep.
but pray regularly, read the Bible, go to confession,
Yeah.
went to mass every Sunday. But like, I didn't really focus on my faith and like how like I was establishing and building a routine, but like we also know that like a part of our routine and the way we are designed is like we're also designed to give glory and worship to God, give worship to something outside of ourselves. And I think we get that mixed up sometimes. Like we'll either give it too much to like football, or give it too much to sport, to work, to pleasure, to friends, to family. And I don't know, like it's weird because it took me like 6 months of not doing that and then going back to work to realize, what did I just do for the spiritually, what did I do for the 6 months?
Yeah.
It's not to say I didn't have any spiritual, like that I wasn't like spiritually edified at all. I was, but it's like routine also lives in faith, and faith should also live in your routine, and the meaning of like your life is also found in that. And like you mentioned, like let's say that the self-help people like Jordan Peterson, for example, right? Like 12 Rules for Life, an antidote to chaos. Like he's touching on like everything he's like touching on.
Yeah.
Like when I'm reading it through like a Catholic lens, it's like, oh yeah, like he's essentially saying like, overcome your bad vices and lean towards virtue. And like he talks about the balance between like order and chaos, and like how it's kind of found like you can't go too far one way, you can't go too far in the other way. He describes like the yin and yang thing, like in the center. And yeah, it's like tell the truth or at least don't lie, you know? And it's like, okay, well, there's a natural order to things, right? Like that's God given, that we can come through our natural reason. Like what is the point of communication? To tell the truth. But what happens when we tell a lie? We distort the truth, and then there's a consequence of the lie, broken down relationships, broken down friendships, lack of trust, all these things. But yeah, like even as we're preparing for this, you also mentioned like Viktor Frankl, for example, like Man's Search for Meaning, an Auschwitz survivor. So, and that was one of the books I actually read, which was funny because when you messaged me like, hey, bro,
you, like
I was like, bro, that was like one of my favorite books I read on my in my 6 months off.
Yeah, his whole story is pretty fascinating, but he's coming from an atheist lens, so he's not even talking about it at all from our faithful point of view. But again, all of his teachings, and we've got a few examples here of sort of secular witnesses, and they all just have the same framework. And I think if you are watching this and you're not a Christian or Catholic at all, and these are all people and their teachings are exactly the same as ours. And it's the message behind it just always points to you need something of more meaning, because if you place it on something that can fade and pass, you're just always constantly going to be chasing. Because one of the other ones I based it around was the Harvard professor, Arthur Brooks. And even him, he said, happiness is not a feeling. It has 3 macronutrients: enjoyment, satisfaction, and meaning. Most people chase enjoyment and wonder why it doesn't last, because the thing you thought made you happy, it fades immediately. So if I say my ice cream, I think that's going to make me happy for 5 minutes, maybe 1 minute. I've eaten it really quickly. It's faded immediately, and I don't think we can be trusted with our own happiness either. I think it needs to be on something bigger than us to survive what's happening in the world right now, and the depression that seems to be creeping in as well.
Does he point to like meaning as like the most important one? Like
Arthur Brooks does. He's coming more from a Catholic point of view.
And what's interesting is like Viktor Frankl, his book is Man's Search for Meaning. Like that's the title of his book. But I feel like that's like I was a big fan of Jordan Peterson, like especially as a young man reading all his work, and I found that his whole thing is like one of his rules is pursue what is meaningful, not what is expedient. Like not what's flying by, but that which ensues. Like exactly what you said and what Viktor Frankl said. And like Arthur Brooks also has because prior to this as well, I was watching a video with him and like Father Mike Schmitz, and he explains like what are like the 3, how do we define meaning? And he says coherent. The first is coherence, which is like why do things happen the way they happen. The second is like purpose, like why am I doing what I'm doing? And the third is significance, like why does my life matter, right?
Yeah.
And he says the combination of all these three things, or having an understanding or a belief in these three things in the midst of suffering, is what gives the person the ability to kind of like stand upright, and would say like theologically like carry their cross daily, because everyone suffers, but it's like it's meaning with a purpose, and like meaning which will sustain you through the good times. And he mentions in there like you said you had been watching this guy, and like this guy's a Harvard professor.
Yeah.
And
he teaches like the biggest like NBA stars like ways of like getting through like to become the best and to defeat like the demons in their head and stuff. So he's giving all these deep talks, and he never brings it about faith. And then towards the end of this talk, he then does obviously link it with Catholicism. And I was then reading through the comments, and so many people were just like, I've been following this guy for so long, and like they're all like Catholics as well, or Christian, and they're like, and now I found out he's Catholic as well. And like, because I think sometimes, like you said, with your Jordan Petersons and others, you can take examples from what they say and you can apply it to your life. So for this, for Arthur Brooks, I think it's the same thing. So many people were taking life lessons from him, and then to find out that actually deeply wired into all of this was a real faith-based theology. Now they're like, wow, no wonder you've connected with me so much, because all of your teachings actually have far more purpose. Yeah,
and like they're so grounded in truth. And like what I found like really interesting about like that that how to define meaning was like with the coherence, like why do, like as a Catholic, it's so, for me, like it gives me comfort and like solace in knowing like bro, we're gonna go like this, like life is hard, days are hard, we're battling daily, and not just spiritually, just like naturally at work, or you receive bad news, or problem happens on the job, or your wife calls you and says I'm sick or whatever. For me, the whole thing, like what I really like what he said was like with coherence, why do things happen the way they happen? As a Catholic, it's easy because you go, because God has willed it so. Like he's intimately entwined in your life, where he wills for your benefit certain things so that you can grow in holiness, and he knows you intimately. Purpose, like why am I doing what I'm doing? And for us, it's like, well, to get to heaven. So it's like in the morning, like why do I offer up a morning offertory? Because I want to remain holy throughout the day, because that's going to help me to work out my salvation with fear and trembling, as the scripture says. But like it's going to orient me towards God. And then the next one he goes is significance. Like why does my life matter? And I think that's the big one. Like that we hear a lot. Like what's the purpose of life? Like why does my life matter? And like we say, like, well, the Lord loves me. I matter to God, and like we believe that like to our core. Otherwise, you wouldn't have gotten baptized. Like that's a radical like And like Arthur Brooks does. What's that quote? Do you have it where he said like the most countercultural thing you can do?
Oh yeah,
sparked a bit of controversy. He said this to like a big group of
the most transgressive thing you can do in our culture today is get married young, have children, and practice your faith. That is standing up to the culture. That is being yourself. Yeah. And this is a Harvard professor just talking to his students, and he's just saying that straight up to them. So it's probably
And he's not one of those guys that preaches at them either.
No,
that's what he was on, like Modern Wisdom, Chris Williamson, on all these guys. And again, like I never knew he was like a Catholic, and then only when I was watching an episode of the Lila Rose show, and he went on there with his wife, and I was like, is that the same guy that was? I was like, what? He's a practicing Catholic. He's got like a son in the army or two in the Navy or something. It's crazy, man.
One of the other fascinating people was Aristotle as well. I think this one, obviously, he came about before Jesus.
Like 300 years before Christ or something.
So his reasoning is even more fascinating for me, because he maybe didn't fully have the answer, because we're now talking from a point that we now have the scripture and we know Jesus then came and he's given us these teachings, but he's pretty much saying the exact same thing that we're questioning prior to Jesus, but it's still got the exact same. He says happiness is not about indulgence, but about practicing virtues daily. So already then he knows that he needs something in his day, and he needs to practice something every day to be able to reach that happiness goal, and that through indulgence alone isn't going to bring him. And it's like,
and Aristotle, like as a philosopher, he was like, he could never like really pinpoint, like it's like he had his finger on the pulse of like, well, there has to be something outside of us and beyond ourselves, which is where the true purpose and meaning of life comes.
Yeah.
But Christ hadn't come yet for him to kind of, put his finger on that. But like, a lot of like Catholic sacramental theology is structured around that virtue and vices, which is Aristotelian in its nature. And like Thomas Aquinas builds on that. And I kind of feel like it's interesting. Like God created Aristotle, God loves Aristotle, God obviously gave Aristotle certain gifts and wisdom to be able to, discuss and describe these complex problems. But it kind of then gets fulfilled throughout the Catholic faith, as historically as it unfolds and as it evolves.
We're still using it now.
We're still using it now.
2,600 years later.
And we see like this building block constantly, like, and we say like, I think we say it in just passing, like, and sometimes like I'll listen over the videos and I'll be like, we usually use that like, it's so deep, it's rich, it's theological. We use that language.
Yep.
But like it speaks to the depth of the meaning of our faith, and it speaks to the depth, I think, of like what people are trying to pursue in their life.
Yeah.
Which is like all these guys, like secular, not secular, whatever. That is the thing. It's like, it's all about being better daily, being virtuous, getting the good habits, waking up the same time, going to the gym, eating healthy, having community, having relationships.
Yep.
Like, but it's like, bro, they're right. For me, when I'm reading this, I'm like, yeah, this is all good, but it's...
You just need that next sentence that says,
like,
go to mass.
Yeah. Like, that's good, but then, like, where I found them when I was, like, reading these books and that, what always, like, made me feel uneasy was, like, it always made me feel like it all solely rests on me.
Yeah.
You're
the answer to your problem.
Yeah, and it ends with me. Yeah, I don't like that because I don't trust myself.
Of course.
I really don't. And I'm like, I'm weak. I don't want to rely on...
There's a reason why we're at that point. Because we did it to ourselves. So like, how am I going to be the one to get myself out of it as well? So like, if we're talking about everything they've all said, it rests on something like bigger than ourselves, and we can't rely on indulgences ourselves. So is there something that you used to rely on that was like a bit of an indulgence that brought you your happiness that like now looking back, you don't rely on anymore?
Yeah, I would say like, for me specifically, like this is more of a recent thing, was money. Like I think I fell into this trap of like the hustle culture of like, you got to work hard, strive, make as much money as you can now, enjoy life. And it was a very toxic approach to money because it was like, I had this perception that everything I did, I created. Like I created my own wealth. I created my own luck.
Yeah.
I got these jobs. I made this much money. And I really did like let that define who I was as a person. And I became very proud, greedy. And again, like it was like, and the relationship I had with money, I wasn't like, again, I can't answer this, maybe you can, or like close friends of ours can. I don't think I ever showed it off. I don't think I did. And not that I made a lot of it anyway, right? But like more than what I was used to. So when I did, there was always that like, I need more. But then when I took time off work, I kind of came to that realization. I realized like my relationship with work was toxic. I took 6 months off, focused on myself, my relationship. I traveled. I realized that like, okay, and I learned this from, like, again, another self-help book, like 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And it talks about how like there's a central principle and like, or a paradigm, and everything has to revolve around that paradigm. But like the person has to like come to that conclusion. Then when I read like right at the end, I think his son at the end of the book writes like a snippet, and he talks about how he's like, what my dad doesn't mention is that like his whole central paradigm was ordered towards Jesus Christ. Like
really?
And it took me like 3 weeks to read this book, and I was really like nailing it down and writing and elaborating. And then I get to the end, I'm like, I was like, I have to work out the principle now.
Yeah.
And I was like, let me just read the end and see what. And then like he goes, what he didn't what no one realized is like his success, his energy, his power, his love for his family, everything he did was oriented towards his love for Jesus Christ, and how he could use his life and his gifts and his talents as a means of glorifying him and not just providing meaning to his own life, but to the life of his families and others. Because like he ends up traveling the world teaching about the 7 habits of highly effective people.
Yeah.
But he never tells them.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because it's like, I was like, well, this is the author, like, and this is the guy promoting it. It works, and he's come to that. And he talks about like how he was like searching for it, and he ends up coming to that conclusion. Well, like the meaning of life and the purpose of life has to come from an ideal outside of myself.
Yeah.
And that thing has to be a person, and that person is Jesus Christ. And yeah, I found it interesting. But on the topic of that, like we started off this conversation about like Saint Francis, right? And you were telling me of like an interesting study about when who was the guy? You said he
the
Newberg. He studied Franciscan
nuns.
And like, so for those of you who don't know what a Franciscan nun is, or what Franciscans are, they are an order of there are 3 orders. The first order is consecrated men who swear to a life of celibacy, obedience, and poverty. So they take on 3 vows and they live by these vows in order to get closer to Christ. The second order is the nuns, and the third order is the laymen. But like the first and second order live by these charisms, and it helps them by swearing these vows of chastity, obedience, and poverty. It allows them to get closer to Christ. But it sparked an interest in this guy because he wanted to study, wow, like these nuns and these priests are the happiest people you meet.
Yeah.
Like, why are these Franciscans so happy? So, didn't you say he did like a brain scan on them as they were praying or something?
So this is sort of where we're
God
going
bless
with
those nuns, man. They're just like, you can test my brain.
Yeah, I know. Well, he's sort of coming from a neuroscience point of view. So this is where we want to give you a bit more evidence as such to what our brain's actually programmed to do. And he even had a book of how God changes your brain. So it literally is linked. And we were talking about this earlier, that he doesn't go into this too specifically in this part, but we have multiple parts to our brain, but one part is mainly charged with all of these quick hits. That's what's keeping it occupied, all of our social media, all of this. But then we've got the side, on the other side, is a lot more mundane, and it wants the quiet time, and it needs to be worked through your meditation, you're just sitting in silence and prayer, all of these things. And we're really lacking on that side of our brain right now because everything on this side is going at 100 miles an hour. So we're just hit, and overly developing this side, and this side is very underdeveloped. And I reckon, I don't know how many, a few decades ago, even probably in my early childhood, when obviously we didn't have phones, we didn't have Netflix and options to watch 100 things every night, you naturally are just making decisions based on what you're feeling, and you're listening to your brain a lot more. I think you're connecting and making decisions a lot more on truly how you feel. I think now we're getting influenced by everything we're quickly seeing when we scroll, and everything that's being thrown in our face. So with that in mind as well, so he did this study, and he got a bunch of the nuns together, and he examined their brain activity while they were in prayer. And what he found is, while they were deep in prayer, the blood flow, the endorphin, the dopamine, the serotonin, everything was flooding and flowing out of through their brain, and it was really lighting up. I think he said it was like the frontal lobe. I'm not too clued up on my brain compartments, but it was really just lighting up, and from his study, like flashing through. And then to compare this, he then brought an atheist in, and he just asked him to sort of meditate on God. He wanted a similar comparison, but obviously the atheist maybe doesn't know how to connect through prayer. So he just asked him to meditate on what God may be, and just sort of think in that way. And there was no sort of extra brain activity. There was none of this extra stimulus and extra blood flow. So he was saying that prayer is obviously part of the answer, but it actually needs to be deeper, and you need to be connected and believe in God behind it, because it's actually your connection with God and your communication that is allowing your brain activity to be worked. So through that, he's then suggesting to improve and work out that side of the brain that every morning, again, a morning routine. It seems to come up time and time again, but to pray or meditate for 12 minutes. He says 12 minutes is the ideal amount, not too long, not too short. And he's saying that over time, this is going to improve your brain function by 12 to 15%, and specifically your memory. So he compares it to a gym workout. We go to work out to improve our body, but we're never training our brain properly. Especially this mundane part that just needs silence, it needs prayer, it needs meditation. How often do we all, like we're saying, even for us, waking up in the morning and getting that morning prayer in is one of the harder parts of our day. And if there is something we maybe skip out on, it possibly is that when we wake up so tired. We're not training that part, so it's never growing. And the more you get into the habit, the more it grows, the more you think for yourself, the more you listen to truly what your brain wants. And it all just goes hand in hand to then becoming better in that way of thinking.
What like really sparked my interest then when you mentioned like the 12 minutes part, and like you said, you increase your memory by 10 to 15% per day, was like, there's a, I don't know, I remember learning this when I was young. It was like, as a young Catholic, was like, they say in order to, I think, maybe it was a saint that said, it's like, in order to fulfill your justice of, like your justice of prayer, like towards God, like the minimum you should pray a day is 15 minutes a day to God, right? And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like, why 15 minutes? And like that just sparked right now, like that interest. And it's like, oh yeah, and it's like, well, the Rosary also takes 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Like literally, it's a 15-minute prayer. Obviously, the longer you meditate on it, the longer it is. But like, I find that like, especially in this month of May, which is the month of Our Lady, or like I've been praying like from not praying the Rosary to like praying the Rosary more often.
Yep.
And just going through the beads and like meditating upon the mysteries of Jesus's life and thinking of like being in the garden with him, and then like watching him get scourged, or like watching from afar, him like presenting in the temple. It's like it really, like my day now is so much more peaceful.
Yep.
And put aside like, and it's all interlinked, right? But like put aside the grace part that God gives through prayer. But like that time of just during the business of your day to really just take time aside outside of yourself, outside of your busy thoughts, just to be alone in silence and just to contemplate something other than self. Right? For me, that's like the best time of my day.
Yeah.
Because like we have to work, we have to do all these things, right? We have to eat, we have to, like we're always stimulated. Like we're always like, even like when you, like I was telling that, bro, during Lent, I kind of gave up this practice as I went on throughout Lent, which I shouldn't have. But like just driving to work in silence.
Yeah, I do that every day now.
Do you?
I don't even listen to music, radio.
Yeah, and you just like, and sometimes even if you're in your own thoughts, it's okay. But like when you mentally ascend your mind back to God, it's like, again, like back to that thing, like I don't have to do everything by myself. Like, and it's so nice knowing like that I can live outside of always thinking about me and what I have to do, how much money I have to make and whatever. And I don't know if I finished what I was saying prior, sorry, about like, you asked me like, was there ever a time, whatever, but like back on that money thing, it was like, until I realized that like, all like the job I have or the blessings I've had or the people I've worked for or the amount I made in this year or whatever, when I realized that, I did none of that. That was all blessings given to me by God.
Yeah.
He put everything in front of me.
Yeah.
He gave me the gifts. He paved the way for me to be where I am today. It really made me abandon myself and to kind of give everything back to God. Like so every morning, it's like now my prayer also is like with my work and and I've started doing that like with my hands, like marking my hands with the cross. It's like, well, every time now I'm working using my hands as a tradesman, it's like I'm glorifying God and I give glory to God through everything that I do now. So it's like, it's no longer solely relying on me, but it's like, it's with God, for God, it's through God. And yeah, I want to touch on that, bro, because like, it really helps me like reorient everything back. And like, I don't come home miserable.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm so tired. It's like, no, God, like, everything I did for you today to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
And I failed, and I did good things, I did bad things, and I examine that, and I try and do better the next day with things that I said, things that I did, whatever it may be. But like, again, taking that time outside of like just to think for 12 or 15 minutes or 20 minutes just to sit. A lot of times, bro, I've got an image of the Sacred Heart in my garage of Jesus, which was actually my grandmother's, which she gave to me before she died. And I literally sit in front of that for like 15, 20 minutes, just close my eyes, and I try and converse with Christ and just have a dialogue with him. And I don't hear like an audible voice back, but that peace, man, like that. And then like what happens is like we're both husbands, so like when you come home, it's like your day doesn't just end when you come home.
No.
It's like, oh, now we've got the next half of like cleaning, dinner, being there for your
Caring
wife.
for your wife, yeah. Talking for your day. But yeah, with the conclusion of his findings, I think where it then sits is that we need to work out that side of our brain more. And like you just touched on the Rosary, he compares the Rosary to a gym workout and says that is the best workout for that side of the brain, just because it covers the prayer and the meditation. You're doing both simultaneously. And then just thinking back to, I think it was 2 episodes ago when I mentioned that I think the best thing for people that they could do was to attend adoration and just sit in silence. And now thinking about it as well, when you're in the moments of silence, and if you can practice it and become slightly better at it each time, they seem to be the moments where you have, like you said, not a voice in your head, but you get a bit more clarity on the issues you were having, or an answer suddenly pops into your head, which is suddenly the perfect answer you needed. And these come from those moments. So I truly believe that we need to practice that skill more now than ever, with the distractions that we now ensure every day. And just having moments in peace. And like you said, like before an episode, you'll sort of sit and pray on it, and things come into your mind of questions that you'd want to ask. And that's the same for me as well when I'm having these moments, whether it's in the car in silence or when I'm just having a moment of silence in prayer. I'm just thinking, and I'm like, oh, this would actually be something really useful to say today. Why are those moments then popping into our heads at that point?
Well, I think there's a like we said at the beginning, like our nature, like a part of us where we're designed for something outside of ourselves. And what happens is when we live contrary to that, I think we all can say, man, there are consequences, you know. And I think if we look at the data of what happens when we live contrary to those things, like you were reading, like before this episode, like you were reading some of the stats to me, and I was like, bro, no way, like that's
pretty damning.
That's heavy. Like we'll go through them.
So we're now sort of talking about the mental health crisis, because now, obviously more than ever in our lifetime, just mental health is just, I feel like the biggest thing spoken about is everyone has a form of depression, anxiety, loneliness, some, whether it's minor or major, but some part of it lives within us in every part of our lives. So just the starting fact again, back in 1972, most of these are sort of US based, but they would sort of translate through the Western world. But back in 1972, just only 5% of people would consider themselves unaffiliated with religion. So move forward to today, that's then gone up to 30% of people. And then between the ages of 18 and 29, it's saying 44%. So we're talking pretty much half of the youth of today, 18 to 29 years old.
But isn't it crazy how you said, like, this just came to me, bro, like the correlation between like people are getting married a lot later now to like post, like in their 30s, and it's like, but then again, there's like, I feel like there's like an ascent to faith in this. I don't know, like now young men are coming back. We've discussed that.
Yep.
But isn't that crazy? Like the one thing, like Arthur Brooks said, that gives you meaning, purpose, is to like get married young, have kids, and then
we're doing the complete opposite now.
But then you see like the 44% are now religiously unaffiliated between the ages of 18 to 29. I don't know, for me, it's a crazy, like it's a crazy correlation between like what we see in society and what we see statistically as well.
Yeah.
So,
and then with that, then it's saying then half of Gen Z Americans have already received formal mental health diagnosis. With then 7 out of 10 people under 40 report not having a clear sense of purpose in their lives. So all these numbers are just adding up to like,
That's so sad.
what is the part that's suddenly missing when 40 years ago, 50 years ago, 1972, only 5% of the population were unaffiliated. Then move that up to 30% today, alongside of 50% of people feeling mental health issues or no sense of purpose in their lives. We're just like, look, it's not pointing directly and saying that the answer is we're talking God. We believe it truly is, but these numbers, the parallels between them, something has suddenly become missing in our world right now. And as a cause of that, a lot of health conditions are skyrocketing.
Of course. And also like it's like what you, I like what you said, like we're not saying it's just like we're not saying like God, that's it. But like I feel like when you see I feel like culturally, when you see a decline in virtue and how people practice their faith, or like how people live their lives, again, like there's something when people are living contrary to natural law, what is like that which is the law inscribed in their heart, which is good for them.
Yep.
When they start living contrary to that, what I would say is like that's when you start seeing these problems. Like this is what happens. This is the depression. This is the anxiety. This is the obsession, like with social media or image or whatever.
Well, talking to social media, then that goes to this next one really, is because people aged 18 to 22 are lonelier than people aged 72. So when you're in your prime, think of when you're 18 to 22, like that's you then becoming an adult, you're in your prime, you're the fittest you're probably ever going to be.
Right. When I was between 18 and 22 years old,
nothing can beat like...
My back was perfect. My back now is lonely.
And it's saying 1 in 3 people 13 to 25 now, we're expanding it. So the pure youth from being a teenager to 25 completely feel alone the majority of time. And we're in a society now with social media where you're more connected than you could ever possibly be, more connected than we've ever been in our lifetime. Like I can call up anyone right now. I can call up my family back in the UK. We can go on Instagram and see how everyone's doing, what they're up to on their stories. I should feel the most connected with everyone. And this is then saying the complete opposite of 1 in 3 they feel completely alone. So again, what's missing? Because technically everything's there for us. We should have everything to be as happy as we've ever been, as social as we've ever been. So where's the disconnect with that?
Yeah, like again on that video, on like what you said previously, Dan, about the 2 parts of the brain. When I was watching that video with Arthur Brooks and Father Mike Schmitz, and I really recommend it's probably like a 30 to 40 minute video, really, really interesting. Harvard professor speaks to a Catholic priest and they're talking about that question of meaning. And this Harvard professor, who we've mentioned, Arthur Brooks, his whole work is on, he's a behavioral scientist. So his whole work is on the science behind meaning, purpose, a purpose-driven life. And he mentions that, like, I don't know what the terms are, but the right brain, the left brain. And he mentions how, like, in his great-grandfather's age, like, anxiety and depression weren't a thing because they would float between the two of, like right brain, left brain. He goes, like, why? Because, like, their life had meaning. They had community.
Yeah.
They all had faith, so they had a ritual. And their life, therefore, had purpose because everything they were doing for God, like, for their families.
Yep.
And, like, people just had... And, like, I look at it with, like, my grandparents... who have passed now, but like they just got it. Like, I don't know, there was this thing of just like life wasn't complicated. It was simple. It was cooking. It was being with family. It was going to the beach. It was working hard, saving money. But there wasn't that. I use the word toxic on purpose because like it never became, in my opinion anyway, like there wasn't a disorder to it, you know, and again. Maybe 1 or 2 generations ago, maybe 2, like God was at the center of everything.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I feel like now that we've removed God from the equation, very like what follows? And that's I think like again we're kind of like hovering around the answer here.
Yeah.
We are saying it directly, but like we are presenting the data to say, yeah, like look at these correlations between what happens in society, and then what happens. Like we know from the church, like the church has always thought like, oh, there was a massive decline from like the 60s onwards, you know, but now we're seeing the spike. But what I see is when you see the spike in faith, there's also a radical opposition to it, and I think the reason is because like pursuing a faith-based life means that the person has to amend themselves, and the person has to kind of look inwards and say, well, I can't live for myself anymore. Like I have to live outside of myself. I can't be selfish. I have to do stuff that is outside of me for the sake of the other. And that's like what the definition of love is in the Catholic tradition, which is like to love is to will the good of the other for the sake of the other. And the press is here, like this beautiful quote here from Viktor Frankl, which is, where is it? He goes, happiness cannot be pursued, it must ensue. And it only does so as the unintended side effect of one's personal dedication to a cause greater than oneself, or as the byproduct of one's surrender to a person other than oneself.
Yeah.
And it speaks to that message of we all look inwards for fulfillment, for the, like personal satisfaction, the I, you know, but the fulfillment you get from that inward looking is not possible. Like you're never going to be fully fulfilled unless you're living outside of yourself towards an ideal, a paradigm which is greater and far beyond what you can achieve by yourself. And yeah, it's...
Yeah, because I think the other thing, like, this Viktor Frankl, like, if you just think he was in Auschwitz, so like in recent times especially, is going to be the most depressing, like upsetting and broken place that like we could ever even imagine. So even him just saying, when a person cannot find a deep sense of meaning, they distract themselves with pleasure. And like he's saying that in the concentration camp, but in nowadays, that distraction is coming as the internet, pornography, substances, or doom scrolling,
food, YouTube.
So he's describing concentration camp as a way to survive. But we're just describing a Friday, like because that exact sentence is just how we are all feeling now. And he's saying it from a survival point of view because the ones in the camp who couldn't find that meaning ended up dying pretty much because they had no sense of purpose, and their bodies ended up packing in on them, really.
Yeah, and it speaks of that quote in his book of like, he who has a why to live will find almost any how. Yeah, I feel like that's a mantra I try and live by.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah,
and it's so simple.
Because like what it does is like it allows you on the hard days, and when you're under pressure, to find the joy in living or continuing.
Yeah, I was going to touch on this earlier when you were saying these self-help books, they all serve a purpose and they have good truths to them. But when you're in a moment of suffering or a moment where you're broken, there's not really somewhere to turn to. They don't have the answer for that part. And like you said, it's like then down to you to break that mold for yourself. So where we're talking about is we do have something we can fall on when we are in that moment of hard times or turmoil. And
even when this is why it's so funny you mentioned this, because like Nell was saying last time, we're just like one of the episodes like we're just dumb idiots, you know, like we're just so stupid.
It's like, most weeks.
Every day. It's like, even though we know we have something to fall back on, like we still sometimes curl up into a ball into the fetal position, and we're just like, oh, I'm collapsing under the weight of the world here. Like, what am I going to do? Like, do I stay in this place? Do I continue this job? Do I leave? Do I have this tough conversation with a family member? Do I tell my wife that she didn't clean the bench top properly? That's a joke. I know. Look, I'm making a joke of a hard situation. This is the joy of being a Christian. But even like us, when we are like, as Christians, like, bro, sometimes we even forget like that we have to look towards God, and that God descended and became a man and suffered and like walked the cross, so that we wouldn't do it alone, and like we can like we say like unite our suffering to his suffering.
Yep.
And suffering is redemptive. Like it's like we can be redeemed by it through Christ. And I think that's a message that I would like to say, which is like, bro, we all suffer loneliness, we all suffer anxiety, we all suffer depression or forms of it.
Yeah.
But like, we're also called, like we call Jesus a divine physician. Like, how is a doctor supposed to help, right? If we don't present our ailments to him or what's wrong with us, you know?
Yeah, you're sick. You don't go to the doctor. How are you gonna get that prescription?
Yeah, yeah. And I guess that's what you're trying to say as well, which is like, yeah, we have the meaning, we have the answer. Although we forget it, we still find joy in and amongst the suffering, and that's the Christian message, which is like I think this is where the self-help thing gets it wrong, because it's like, how do we just alleviate suffering completely?
Yeah.
Like, how do we get rid of it completely?
Yeah.
And like,
it's not possible.
It's not possible. And C.S. Lewis talks about this in Mere Christianity. He says like, he goes like, that's not the Christianity I want to be a part of, because like, it's a truth that can't be avoided. Suffering, it's always like, whether it's a high negative emotion, or when you roll out of bed and it's that, oh no, I can't get through this day. It's like very like rare do we find people that are like, oh, maybe we know them, they wake up and they're like wide awake, they're joyful, they're jolly, they have no stresses, and it's like, no, like that's the one thing I don't like about the self-help thing, Danny, which is like it all points to, like you'll find happiness in yourself, like you are the end in and of itself, you are your joy, you are your happiness. But then when something comes and wallops you from the side,
you're not ready. You haven't got the armor.
Nah. And I found in my life the most joy I've had is when I've offered up my poverty to Christ, like meaning that which I lack.
Yep.
And I say, do with it what you like. Take it off me, like carry the burden for me, take it off me, and do with it what you will, because I can't do it. And undoubtedly, man, Christ always takes me out of the garden, you know. Yeah. And sometimes we have to be in the garden. We have to suffer to learn something. And in hindsight, you kind of always learn what that is.
Yeah.
But it's like that 10 to 15 minutes again. Like, bro, pull it aside. Just try it. Even if it's not adoration, like we said.
Yeah.
Even if it's 5 minutes. Even if it's like joining a community. Even communities, bro. That's like
community. Is because I can't remember what it was. Something I was researching the other day was saying that like, going to mass is good, but you need to go there and get amongst it ultimately, because
you're good at that because you're English.
The community part of things is what brings you the overall joy, that you can experience it together, you can be in something together. And then just thinking about it, like when I moved to Australia, the first thing I wanted to do was join a football team, because I knew suddenly I'm going to have 15, 20 boys around. Like law of averages, I'm probably going to make good friends with at least 2 or 3 of them, like hopefully more. And I got lucky with this team, and like all of us are great friends. Just had a Bucks party on the weekend. There was a good 10, 12 of us on there. Like we're all still real close. But then obviously there's like yourself and Dario, like who I'd consider like my real close friends. And just straight away for me, like that community side of things, and I'm around people who share the same interests as me. And we're just working through life together, but we're helping each other out where we can. We try and go for food together. We try and catch up on our weeks together. Obviously, you and I go to mass together, and then we're doing the podcast together now. So we're talking through some of our problems live on camera as well. Like, but all of these things, they're ultimately helping us, and they're I think it goes a long way to stopping that depression side of our minds. It doesn't say it's going to completely heal it, like we're all going to experience these moments, but that alongside with always facing God and always trying to stay on that path, that narrow path towards him, I think the two combined are what bring you there.
And that, like, I feel like it's like so deeply inscribed on our hearts, like that we're not built to be alone. I think what I want to convey is like, for those people like feeling lonely, feeling isolated, feeling sad, like community, we're not just saying church, we're saying like just community in general, family, friendships. Like I can speak for myself, man. Like I remember like when I was about like 21, like probably like 18 to 21, I did kind of feel a bit isolated in my faith. And I did kind of feel a little bit alone, like no one really understood me or no one really got me or whatever. But but then what happened was we formed this soccer team. Shout out to Gus Brown, formed it with him.
Yep.
And it kind of opened up like a whole new doorway of just like long, like just bro, the friend, like again, we're with them on the Bucks on all Saturday night. Just how much were we laughing just the whole time. And that, like, again, like what that points to is like, yeah, we're made for community. We're made for people. Like we're made to be a gift of ourselves to others, in amongst a group of people, like-minded. But also like that in and of itself is like, I feel like that is also like the meaning. Like that is a meaningful life, which is like you have the community, you have, and I feel like all of us, like sometimes we miss one thing or the other, but like the superseding, overarching, highest principle or paradigm is faith.
Yep.
And like everything kind of stems from that. Like your marriage, because that's your vocation, your occupation, your hobbies, which is like football, for example, your health, your diet, your exercise, all these things have to be oriented towards an end above yourself, but also like it can't be an end in itself. I don't know, and that I feel like that kind of helps me. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
touching on what you were just saying a minute ago, and going back to Viktor Frankl from Auschwitz, like his quote of "Those who have a why to live can bear almost any how." We need to realize what that why to live is, and as we said, we believe it's God, and we really want to push that ultimately is going to be the one substance that is just going to remain there for us. And his example of it is even more damning when you picture you're in Auschwitz. He's watching people die daily and everyone's broken, like we said. But he said the point in time where the most people died was between Christmas and New Year. And he said it was the biggest spike of deaths in the camp. And he said it was because everyone placed their hope and ultimately their why. They had a feeling they were going to be released at Christmas. And everyone's then waiting for Christmas to come and they're holding that hope and everything is placed on it. And they didn't get released. And the camp continued. And as Christmas Day passed, then huge amounts of people die because their hope has suddenly been washed away. Their why has been washed away. They're broken and they just have nothing else to live for. He said the ones that survived and the ones that were the strongest were the ones who lived for others. The ones that were trying to help out their friends. If they had food, they would go starving for another day. They would feed their mate that was more hungry than they felt they were. The ones that were trying to live for something else other than themselves and put it onto someone that they could care for and hope for, they served them more purpose, and they were the ones that actually survived through the camp. It's just all these things, we keep pointing it back, and it's just, he's not talking from a Christian point of view at all, but he clearly knows that there's something bigger out there that we need to place it on. And when we place it on all of these smaller things that come and go, that's when everything breaks down.
Well, so like personally for you, right?
Yeah.
Like now you've been a Catholic for, I don't know, a couple of months now and whatever. But like before you came to faith and before you had a different perception on the world, you probably approached, if people would come to you for help, you'd probably approach it one way. Whereas now, like what would you say to someone who like doesn't probably have faith, and like, I don't know, have you come across anyone where you've had to like describe what it is you have now to what it is they don't have, or what it is you didn't have prior? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like, what did that feel like, number one? But like, was it hard for you to kind of try and like tell them, like, because again, like we don't want to come across as like preachy, know-it-all, or whatever.
Yeah.
We just want to share the joy in which we have.
Yeah.
In Christ Jesus. But do you feel like you've kind of come across that lately, or
yeah, I've
like
had
you take a different approach to it now?
a couple of experiences, and the ones that come from sort of no faith, and it's harder to convey the feeling I have, but I just try and say that you know who I am, like whether we've been friends for years or a lot of our lives, and I'm honestly telling you deep down, I've never been happier, and this is the reason, and I can't really give you evidence or proof of that. It is something I just feel deep within. So it's the hard part is to just say start praying or surround yourselves with like-minded people. It's hard to truly, until they start to do it for themselves, it's hard to show them, if you do X, Y, and Z, you're definitely going to get this. It's like, I promise you, if you work this hard, you're going to get this job or something. But like, it's hard to show through faith, if you believe in something, in God, and pray and live that life towards Him, that just these graces just flood you. And just so many points in my day when I truly spend that time alone with God, or pray, or my time with Maria and we're sort of sat praying together. We did it last night. We just put on a prayer on the Hallow app again. It wasn't anything personal. It was just a gratitude one, and it was just going through a few things in our day. Spent a moment of thinking about our mornings, our lunchtimes, our evenings. What was good, what was bad. Thank you for that. Help me improve this. And then it ended. It was only 10 minutes, 12 minutes, the ideal amount, 12 minutes. And we both turned to each other at the end, and we just both said to each other, how do you feel? And we just both said, lighter. Like, we just felt so light and so, just like shoulders dropped. And it was just like, like I feel so much better now. Like, something is there for free to take away your worries, to take away your concerns, your sins. And it just makes your day so much easier. You're at ease. And then ultimately you're happier, because I'm not thinking about, I did that on the weekend and I drank too much and now I feel real bad, and I didn't talk to my family this week, or I didn't spend enough time with my wife this week. Like, all these maybe concerns that start to weigh you down, tiny bits, and you're just feeling heavy, and and then all it takes is then one bad thing to happen, and then you do break, because you just got all of this additional weight that's just baggage on top of you. But if every day you can just have this moment in the morning, lunchtime, in the evening, and you can just release it all, that's where I think the happiness lies, because I'm a lot lighter. I'm not carrying these fears. And it was funny, actually, because even at work the other day, I think there was a few of us talking at the front desk, and so we all work at the gym, the ones that were talking, and then one of the members left, and she looked quite happy, and then someone joked, like, why are you so happy? And she was like, well, like, I got my kids, I got my husband, and I'm not too sure she was talking from a faithful point of view. But then one of the ladies was like, yeah, but that's all of the things that bring me down. Like, she just joked about it. She was like, that doesn't bring me happiness. But then they turned to me and then they were like, Dan, you're always happy. Why are you so happy? Yeah. And I was like, and I just joked. It wasn't a joke, but I just laughed and I said, because I got God.
Yeah.
And then they were like, yeah. But it was as if like, they're like, they know that was the answer. But it was like, obviously maybe they're a bit out of practice at that moment or something. And like we said, it's a muscle. It's something you need to work on. And if you do keep neglecting it, when you hear the answer, maybe you just don't truly believe it at that time, because you're just a bit too dark down the tunnel, and you can't see the light at that moment. But that truly was the answer. I laughed about it, but it was because of God. And
It's ironic.
I was like, this is the answer to happiness.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
No, I know. Man, like, I was like, when we're preparing for this episode, I thought, like, what does, when I was praying a rosary, I was singing, like, the word happy. I was like, what does Jesus, like, say about, like, happiness, you know? And, like, first thing I was called to was, like, the Sermon on the Mount. And, like, he doesn't use the word, like, happy. He uses the word, like, blessed, which is makarios in Greek.
Yeah.
And it means, like, it's a deep, lasting happiness, not, like, a surface level, fleeting pleasure. And that kind of speaks to, like, the meaning part in my thing. And it's like, It's like happiness isn't found like in the power, in the wealth, in comfort, but like you'll hear him say things like, blessed are those who mourn, blessed are the meek, blessed are those who hunger or thirst for righteousness, right? And he goes, blessed are the poor in spirit. And like we spoke about that, like Saint Francis, for example, earlier.
Yeah.
Like he gave up everything and lived poorly.
Yeah.
He lost his eyesight. I think he lost towards the end of his life, he lost his hearing. And I think what he came to is like true happiness didn't come from comfort, but it came from freedom and from love for what God's created for people, for God's creation. And it's interesting because like speaking to like when you give God your poverty, like everything you lack, number one, he will bless you. But number two, I feel like God embraces you like you said, like you couldn't explain before, but like there's like this radical love that you get embrace. It's like there's this embrace of like no human feeling can ever bring this to you.
Yeah.
Not even the love of a wife.
No.
Right?
But with that as well, do you feel that allows you to love people more as well?
Oh, of course.
Because then once I felt that, my love to Maria, my love to like yourself and Cara, like my godparents, my love to my family, my love to those around me, like I care for them more. I want to help them more because I'm feeling that warmth from our Father, and it's passed down on me, and I just truly want to then pass that out, and again, that then brings me happiness again. So I feel like it just all flows and floods into one.
And it's like the more, I don't know, like I find like the more that you cling to something, whether it's a problem, whether it's a vice, it's like, then the less free you are. Like I think that's where we have it wrong in our culture. It's like we think we've got to obtain all these, the accolades, the success, the pleasure, the girls, the reputation, the dollar figure on your annual salary. But like the more you cling to it, the less free you are. And I think that's the paradox. Like you're like, because deep down in our human nature, like we are not called to that. We're called to love God, to serve God here so we can love and serve him in the next life. But like the attachment we have to things here creates anxiety, right? And it's only when we detach ourselves from these things and give it to God. Like even like a lot of my prayer is like I have this attachment to this, help me to become detached. Like as best as you see fit, remove it from me. Because like the more you need something, the more you fear losing it, you know? And we don't want to live like that. Means we're slaves. I don't want to live as a slave, bro. I want to live free. I want to love freely. But
truly
like what spiritual poverty does, I find like you can own things. It's not saying don't own things or don't have God will give you blessings, right? But like don't be owned by them. Or like you can use the world to your advantage, but don't depend on the world for your happiness. You know, like all things created by God can be used for your good.
And serve a purpose.
And serve a purpose. The reason I know like it's not unique just to you, it's unique to everyone, is because we all share in the same human nature. Like we are human, right?
We all need it. We're all feeling this way right now.
And if we can like, I like, one thing is like, how can I put this? Like, we're called to be like poor in spirit, and when we're poor in spirit, we're free. Even if we're materially comfortable, God doesn't want you to be poor. He wants you like money is a good, right, to be enjoyed, not abused. But even if we're materially comfortable, like we're called to be poor in spirit. We're called to give of ourselves to God, to others, and that's when I think you find the most meaning in your life, when you're serving others. Right? And that's what Christ did anyway. Like all the way to the cross, you know? I think so often we get confused and we get caught up in living for just the moment of now, but everything we're saying and everything I feel like we're trying to convey, Dan, to our audience and to our listeners, to our beautiful 60 subscribers that watch weekly. God bless you and thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate it, every one of you.
Definitely. Is that like nothing is promised to us. Everything is a gift that we have from a God that loves us more than we actually know, and that tomorrow is never promised, but true joy and true meaning and true happiness will be found in Christ, in the next life in heaven. But we're not called to be alone here at the moment. Like God has given us people in our lives. He's given us his own son through Christ. And we're called to lean on him in times of sadness, and that one day when we get to the end, God will say, well done, my good and faithful servant. Welcome home.
Yeah.
And I think we end on that and we go get some pho.
Oh, beautiful.
That's for you. All right. Guys, did you want to say anything else, Daniel? Are you happy to finish on that point?
I'm happy to leave it there. Just that's our call to action for today. Go and live it joyfully, faithfully, and maybe just revisit what brings you happiness in your life, and do you think it's the best way to point your life towards it?
Amen.
See where it goes.
Guys, I'm Daniel, the Godfather.
I'm Daniel, the Godson. Never gets older.
We will catch you next week.
Oh,
we love yous. We leave yous.
this is episode 10.
Episode 10, double digits. Who would have thought? Is that 10 weeks we've been doing this?
10 weeks, our first milestone.
Guys, we want to get up to, how many subscribers are we on?
60.
60. We want to get up to 70 subscribers by the end of this video.
Oh.
Give us 10.
Come on, share it with some friends, anyone that needs a bit of happiness in their lives.
We know that like it's bearing a lot of fruit, man. So which is, put it this way, some fruit is better than no fruit. I won't say a lot because it depends how you quantify it, right?
Subjective.
But it's subjective. But yeah, we know that it's reaching the people it needs to reach. People are asking us the right questions. The feedback is great. And yeah, we're just enjoying doing it. So
I'm learning so much.
mate, what's going to happen when we get to 100 subscribers?
Oh.
We're going to throw a party. Guys, God bless yous, love yous and leave yous. Ciao.
Happy Friday. Bye.
Oh, yeah.